I'm Brennan Woodruff. I'm a co-founder and COO of GoCharlie, which is a generative AI platform for creating branded content across all of your end platforms that you publish to. So it's a little bit of a labor of love. We've been at this for a while. So for those listening, AI didn't start when ChatGPT launched. We came together in late 2021. I was actually at SoftBank at the time and decided to jump into an early stage startup. We released our first product May 2022, which was really bad. But for the people that were there, I've met some of them recently. Thank you for the early support. And then we've just kind of been iterating since then. So September 2022, we relaunched the product, started to take off, won Product Hunt twice, and it's been off to the races since then. We felt that at the beginning, we were actually trying to replace marketing agencies, which maybe is not so great for some people listening to this call, because we just had some really awful experiences. Thankfully, we've had some additional agencies renew our desire to work with agencies instead of replace them. But we really saw that content creation was a hard problem. I initially started with my parents, who were like a relationship-driven business, and they had no idea what digital marketing was. And I think there's like a generation of early entrepreneurs, like pre-internet, that just don't know how to make a digital marketing presence. And so we initially positioned our tool as like, here's how to create things that we know will resonate, and we'll give you the tools to be able to grade whether or not they will perform well. And then what we found was that there was a larger need for longer form content. So around blogs and SEO, which is where, if anyone here is familiar with Jasper's, where they got their initial beachhead. And so we started to see that the real value prop was having to do things that you couldn't do in the same amount of time. Blogs is that perfect example, because it takes you and I a long time to write 2,000 words. And fortunately, AI can do that in better part of less than a minute. The quality is always dependent, but that's where I think we saw the bigger need to come from there. So I think for agencies, it's a little bit of a broader problem set, to be honest, because agencies actually really enjoy writing content, which is, this creative process that you don't want to steal from people. I think you very much want to enable people to do more of the things that they love and less of the things that they don't. So I think for agencies, being able to produce the first draft is still very valuable. But what we've started to see some traction is being able to develop proposals and other sorts of meta work, if you will, that aren't core to like, what's the value that I'm actually delivering to customers? What's the service I'm actually delivering to customers? So that's why we intentionally built our platform a little bit broader, to be able to not only do content at a really high quality, really high level, and be able to do much of it at once, but also give you some tools where you can actually grow your business and do more of the tasks that quite honestly feel tedious. I think that if you're in the AI space, you're silly if you don't think that ChatGPT is the comparison. I can't tell you how many people I've met that don't even pay for ChatGPT, and they're like, well, if this is free, then why would I pay you? Which, thanks to ChatGPT for that whole taking the pricing out of the market. But I think it all comes back to what are you centering your value prop around? What are you really doing versus what's happening in the ChatGPT level? And I think that's where we initially decided to go more towards an agency focus, because agencies actually understood the difference between ChatGPT level quality and actually tuned to marketing, considerate of the different variables that make good content, great content. And we went after them. So when we're working with agencies, it's still ones where content is like a main level of focus. One of our largest customers spans a pretty broad service offering, but where we see us doing the most damage is around SEO, social media marketing, influencer marketing, and affiliate marketing. So being able to take different types of content as input and context and create multi-platform, omni-channel type outputs. That's where we're really doing our damage. So I'd say agencies that are mostly doing content as their main focus tend to be where we have our sweet spot. It's the crux, I think, of every AI tool these days, because everybody's like, oh, the AI is so cool. Like, why wouldn't anybody want to have this? Why doesn't anybody want to have this? And what they're missing in this whole thing is the macroeconomic environment that we're functioning in. Business is really hard right now. Rates are really high. People are getting squeezed by these debt obligations that they have. People aren't buying as much. Companies are tightening their belt. But what that means is that if you were going to introduce a tool that requires significant investment in learning how to use it and extract the value from it, you have to go to the executive level. And agencies tend to get that and be able to move at a much faster pace than if you were to go to a large Fortune 100 company. Because a Fortune 100 company, you're going to have to go through data, procurement, IT, privacy, all these different teams just to get approved. And so the executive leadership's really going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to go through that headache with my people unless you're going to introduce a 10 to 100x ROI. And most AI tools just are not there yet. But I would say that we're typically dealing with the VP level, or maybe even the head of levels, that right below it for the buyers. And then the actual users tend to be directors and below. But we've even seen the buyer get benefit from using our tool as well. So that's kind of been the interesting case, is like, you get this in the hands of people, they'll find ways to make it useful. But you have to have that executive buy-in to push down from the top and say, hey, this is an investment we're making for you to be more effective and you to be able to get your work done faster. So invest in that learning as well. I've been talking to a lot of like consultancies, professional services firms, agencies, just like, how's the market right now? Because that ultimately, the softness of that market usually contributes to the buying opportunities that you're going to face if you go directly to the brands or the retailers. And what we've found is that most of these consultancies and agencies are actually revamping their whole business model. It's a lot more flat fee engagements. It's a lot less variable costs. And what that's also contributing to is you're usually looking to serve more clients with the same team. And so that creates this perfect bubble for us to kind of pierce, which is we allow your team to be amplified across more clients, doing more work, reducing the context switching because we allow you to program different clients into the platform. So I actually think that that's what's creating this like fervor from the agency side to move fast, is we know that we have to do more with less. And the only way we're going to get there is by getting our people on these AI systems early and developing their knowledge of how to use them to deliver services. Yeah, so we try to be pretty upfront with our clients. It's like, this should be used for creating content with the explicit permission of your clients. It's why the meta work, I think, also starts to become a bigger part of what people are using it for. I personally think that a lot of the privacy concerns for AI are overblown, especially around marketing materials, because it's usually you're using your brand voice, using some sort of deal that you're offering. But there are certain things that are proprietary, like new product launches that haven't been released to the market. It's not like we're sitting there and looking at any of that stuff or selling that data, which is an even bigger risk with some of these other startups. We're not looking at that. We're not selling it. We're not doing anything. We have a wholly encapsulated ecosystem. We use only our stuff, but it's a serious concern. So we try to address that right from the get-go and say, hey, if this is not something you wouldn't want the public to know, don't put it in there. And we kind of give them that opportunity. The way that the models work is they're an engine. And so like, it's not like a car engine where like residue is getting left in that engine and then ultimately someone else could come and check that out. Like, it's very much, it goes through the system, it comes back, and no one else can access that information. You wouldn't be able to jack our prompt or our platform to get any of the information that's put into it. It's very much safely housed, and that's not going anywhere. For our larger clients, we actually stand up specific instances of the platform. So we have about 10 models running at any given time, all on our own infrastructure. And so those models are shared across people. But for larger companies that have more significant privacy concerns, we just say, all right, cool, we'll deploy a specific model just for you. It's only used by you, and that's that. That's typically a large enough client where they have those requirements. But again, I still think it's overkill for most of the things that our platforms get used for, but we wanted to be respectful of that so we can address clients with that level of data privacy need. We've helped one of our agencies go from 8 clients per person to close to 16. So a near doubling of their client book size per employee. That sounds really crazy, but when you start to think about the context switching you can alleviate by allowing you to build brand voices and company profiles into the platform and switch between them almost instantaneously, the efficiency that we can deliver becomes pretty significant. So that's really the measurement that I've tried to look at, is like, how much are we amplifying your people? Are you able to deliver on twice the amount of engagements, 3 times the amount of engagements? Really, I think that's the significant thing, because the positioning for us, you always have to tie to financial line items. And what does everybody want right now? They want growth, but they don't want to expand headcount expense. And so we kind of view ourselves as that lever to get both those. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a trade-off, a certain part of that pendulum, because if you swing too much towards efficiency, then the quality of the work tends to go down. So you have to be strategic about it. I think for us, it becomes a lot more, okay, once you have your service template figured out and what you're going to deliver to a client, we've introduced ways where you can schedule the AI to work when you're not in the UI. We've introduced ways where you can save prompt templates to where each client, you can just move through that same set of activities. And the client information is ultimately what really inspires it and does it elsewhere. But because we do that, then the agent or the agency employee themselves can be a lot more creative. They're freed up from some of the day-to-day creation, and they can instead think about what are cooler ideas for the things that we want to do or different experiments that we want to run. But I do think that at some point, you can't go to 24. You probably can't go to 24 people per headcount unless you have an AI that's a lot more capable than what current systems are. I think for me, 2024 is a year of focus and narrowing. We have a lot of things that we do really good. There's a few things we do exceptionally well. And I think it's getting a lot more focused on the things we do exceptionally well and making sure that those are the bread and butter of our customers. And then just continuing to listen to the needs of the market. I think we just came out of the Shop Talk conference with some very valuable information about, where people at on their adoption curve. And I think we have been trying to push the envelope from a what the AI can do standpoint, but there's such a market for just the basics, the simplest of implementations. So I think 2024, you're going to see us focusing a lot more on specific use cases, deploying models for those specific use cases, and having larger and larger customers and larger ACVs. The other one that I think I'm particularly excited about is a concept that surprisingly hasn't been figured out yet, which is brand voice. We were one of the first ones to introduce brand voice in the AI sphere. And over time, I just don't think anyone's really figured it out. And part of that is because I don't think anybody has a really great way to assess whether something is on brand or off brand. So I think you're going to see us going a lot deeper on the branding suite, both being able to create a brand profile, but also being able to say, okay, all of these things that I'm creating, are these in line with these brand guidelines? So you'll see us go a little bit more up market, but a lot more investment in the, how do I customize this AI to feel like me? We're really excited about what we have ahead of us. We have our own large language model called Charlie 1 that we're going to be making available via API. It's an uncensored AI model. That doesn't mean that it's generating porn. That just means that it will answer your questions when you ask it questions or do the task without a tip. And having that in our arsenal means that we can do private deployments and a lot more interesting projects with larger companies that have specific needs and specific tuning requirements. So if that sounds like their company, then I would love to talk to them.